And we're back with more exciting adventures of the Incredible Hokes. I am Chris.
I am Mark.
Today, I think we're going to revisit something we haven't done in a while. Would you like to set up what we've not done in a while?
We have not done this in a while.
And we're a little late, but here it is.
With the Incredible Hokes, there is a fictitious Hall of Fame, a movie cinema
Beautiful building.
Hall of Fame building. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yes.
Um,
It's beautiful.
yeah.
It's got pillars and columns like the old Greek buildings,
Right.
but
right.
all a mixture of modern technology. It cost at least $1 trillion to build it.
Mm-hmm. It was
Wakandans built it, as if that tells you anything.
yeah. There's vibranium,
As in the...
floors and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So we did previously. We've done 2 videos. 2005. That was the inaugural.
15, you mean?
2015. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then 2016 was our second, and then we got a little behind. So we're going to do 2017's entry into
Incredible Hokes
Incredible
Hall of
Hawks
Fame.
Hall of Fame.
You call it the Hawks?
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I'm parched. Incredible Hokes
Where's your drink?
Hall of Fame. It's over here.
I drink on camera all the time. Just drink on camera.
My Cheerio receipt.
I eat, belch, fart. I've done everything in Incredible Hokes.
We both of us put in 5 names each.
I will recap.
That's how it works.
For those keeping track at home, I'll recap 15 and 16. So in 15, my entries were Martin Scorsese, Francis Coppola, Quentin Tarantino, John Wayne, and Clint Eastwood. That was my core people. It was the first one. Like, man, these are my people.
Right.
And that is 1, 2, 3. That's 5 names. So I think we're doing 5 names each.
Five names apiece.
And the rule
each time.
is, if I put him in, he can't put him in again.
Right.
So if like one of us does Spielberg, nobody can come back and do Spielberg. It's like if they're in, they're in.
Once they go in, they're in.
Then 15, you did Charlie Chaplin, Stanley Kubrick, Akira Kurosawa, George Lucas, and Errol Flynn. And 16, I did Thelma Schoonmaker, the great film editor for a lot of Martin Scorsese's movies.
Yep.
Ridley Scott, Harrison Ford, Roger Deakins, the cinematographer. Just look him up. He finally won for Blade Runner 2049.
Yep.
And the Coen brothers together, Joel and Ethan. In 16, you put in Walt Disney, Steven Spielberg, John Ford, Toshiro Mifune, and Michael Curtiz, right?
Yep. That's correct.
Let's pronounce it Curtiz correctly, right?
That is correct.
Michael Curtiz, remind them, did the director.
He directed Casablanca, and among others. Seahawk, Adventures of Robin Hood.
Any name that's not too familiar, I'm trying to remind them.
Yeah.
So now we're into 17. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. And I just say name your list, and then you just touch on. We don't have to like go one by one and do a whole bunch of things, but we'll just kind of pick 1 or 2 and talk about. But you want to do 1, or you want to do all 5 and then all my 5? Which one would you like to do?
Just 1 of 1.
Okay.
That's always fun.
So to lead off. My leadoff batsman for 17 for me is the great Robert De Niro. I felt like with Schumacher and Scorsese already in, it was only natural that the next person from that holy trinity of people come in, which would be De Niro.
Right.
Resume speaks for itself. He's got all the Oscars, and he's done some good with comedy and things like that. But really, for me, the reason I put him in is those core 70s and 80s movies. Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Mean Streets, The Godfather Part 2. That's really the body of work. When I think Robert De Niro, those are the movies I think of. King of Comedy. And he's done some awesome stuff. Cape Fear was awesome in the 90s. And he did some great things. He branched out into comedy in the 2000s with the Meet the Parents type movies and stuff. But
right.
He's in there because of the core for me.
Yeah, he really is one of those, when you list examples of the great method actors of all time, he's in the top 5 in that list. He might be number 1. He certainly was great at that. His first 15 years to 20 years of his career, he was intense. I mean, he really went for it. Took a lot of chances. Really threw himself into roles. I mean, Raging Bull, he literally gained 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And then lost it,
Sure.
to end up to be average size for King of Comedy, a movie he did a couple of years later. So he was willing to put his body through all kinds of torture for the role.
Pretty much. Torture is a good word.
My first lead off would be, of course, Katharine Hepburn, the great Katharine Hepburn, one of the great actresses of all time. When I think of her, she was just always so great about getting to the truth of whatever her character was all about. And it didn't matter if she was doing screwball comedies or dramatic roles like Summertime. She could be fragile, she could be strong. She really was terrific and one of the unique actresses in all of cinema to be able to run the whole gamut of emotions.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll have someone who is great at comedy but not so much at drama, or someone good at drama, not so much at comedy. And she was the full package. So welcome, Katharine Hepburn.
To go a little quicker now, I'm going to run through these a little bit. The next would be Gene Hackman, who I could do a whole show on, my love for Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall. And then I'm forcing myself to be more inclusive, as they say these days. So I'm trying to, with each nomination going forward, can I put a minority or can I put a female always into my list? So I thought about it. I thought a lot about it, and I thought, okay, well then let's do that. And I always want to put somebody technical too on my list, not just always in front of the camera.
Right.
So I thought my last two entries would try and meet that, and I really mean them. They are Hall of Famers, or Denzel Washington, who needs no introduction.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And Sally Menke, keeping with my desire to get behind the scenes people. She's Quentin Tarantino's late editor. She died. She's no longer with us, but she did Pulp Fiction and she did all of his stuff up until her death.
Right.
And her editing is just phenomenal. She deserves to be mentioned in the same breath with Thelma Schoonmaker, who to me is the greatest editor who's ever lived. And so I just want to touch base on Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman probably is my personal kind of he's my personal one from this one. My love for Gene Hackman.
Right.
From Fiction all the way through Royal Tenenbaums. I have a deep, deep love for Gene Hackman. The everyman. And I'm not an actor, although I dabbled in it. But if I ever had to really focus my career and become an actor, I think he was who I model the most.
Well, he's one of the all-time greats. No apologies necessary there. He is one of the all-time greats. I like the fact that you've done it now twice. You've kind of shown light on the great female editors in cinema, in the film industry, because a lot of the best editors in the history of Hollywood, some of them are in fact females. It's always viewed seemingly as a male-dominated industry, but there's some aspects of filmmaking that have clearly females have made their mark, and that is one area where they still don't get enough credit, but we're trying to rectify that, so that's awesome.
Sure. All right. Would you like to introduce your list?
Sure. Real quick. James Stewart, one of the all-time greats, a legend. It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Kind of an everyman in his way. Also had a successful long career as a Western star. People forget about that now, which is kind of odd. But one of the all-time, certainly top 10 great actors. Cary Grant, also one of the great actors of all time. Suave, charming, funny, but also could do drama just as well. And was anyone more classy on camera than Cary Grant? Probably not. And John Williams, when you're talking about composers, he's the tops. He's Spielberg's composer. People kind of forget that, but specifically, he's worked on almost every Steven Spielberg movie, with just a few exceptions. All-time great. And then David Lean, great director, a British director, but great. He course, did Lawrence of Arabia, one of my all-time favorites. Bridge on the River Kwai, Summertime, Passage to India. I love that movie. Great epic filmmaker. Had a great sense of crescendo and building things, the tension and drama, like really nobody else. So, welcome all five of you.
It says something about John Williams, who he makes in just the 70s alone. He comes up with Jaws and Star Wars, which in the same decade he has two. He knocks two of the most iconic ever soundtracks ever created in the history of film. He does it twice in a matter of a few years. Turns around the 80s and gives us Raiders and E.T.
Yeah.
And then of course the other Star Wars movies.
Right.
Because like in the 90s, JFK, the soundtrack to JFK is just amazing with the military parade drums and things like that. And so, and even now he's still doing
Schindler's List.
Yeah. He's still doing, you know, these current Star Wars, not the one-offs, but he's doing the main core trilogies still.
Right.
So this guy is a constant. He's like a force of nature.
Did all the well, he did the first two Harry Potters, I believe.
Okay.
Got the ball rolling there.
We'll come back to Robert Duvall. I didn't mention him enough. I didn't highlight him enough. He goes right along there with Gene Hackman with me, like a guy that if I was to act, I think I would emulate an easy delivery. There's such an ease of the delivery from Robert Duvall. I believe him. And Denzel just... Denzel is an anomaly because he doesn't really do the star stuff. He's not on social media. You don't see him in People magazine. But, like, everybody adores this guy. Young, old, white, black. Like, literally, my kids were teenagers. We went and saw The Equalizer. Like, on the IMAX because it's like, it's fucking Denzel. We want to see him as The Equalizer kill everybody.
Right.
And he's got this mystique. And so I think that was the thing for me in this, and I was like, who other than Sally Menke was more of a technical, but the other guys bring a mystique to them. They're larger than life to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought.
Well, and he's kind of become. Well, if we want to talk about, you know, African Americans and their heroes. I think it's great. They can look to Denzel Washington. He's been a man of integrity and a professional, and is incredibly talented, had a great career, and they can look to him and he can be their John Wayne or Paul Newman or, you know, these James Stewart, these kind of guys that just had long careers and were legends, and he can be that hero for them, and I think that's awesome. And he's absolutely he makes great movies. Man on Fire, I love that movie.
Wow, he's that's awesome. If he's that for them, that's awesome. He's a hero for me. That's all I know. He's a hero for me. I will see Equalizer 2 probably opening weekend. So, and I rarely miss a Denzel movie. That's the highest compliment I can give anybody. White, black, female, old, young. If I make it a point to see your movie when it comes out,
right?
That's the highest compliment.
Yeah.
I rarely miss a Denzel movie. So all right, so that's our 2017. We'll probably do 2018 in the coming weeks. We were behind the ball, but hell, we're busy, man. Chill out. So let us know if you have anybody we've left off. Maybe I'll write these down where people can see them. If there's if anybody thinks there's like a glaring omission, they can maybe tell
that
us.
would be interesting. Yeah, if you think there's somebody real big that we've missed.
I'm a softie for editors because I've edited so much. It's hard. It's one of the hardest jobs in the whole process.
Right.
And there's no glory in it. I mean, you're stuck in a room by yourself most of the time, just doing. You know, in today's digital age, you're just pounding away with your mouse and keyboard. Film age, you're with the cutters and all that stuff. There's no red carpet for film editors, but yet in a way they are the most authentic of the storytellers. They're using your footage and compiling it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're responsible for the flow.
Yeah.
So it's a
well, it can be a make or break. just to use Star Wars. They had that documentary and the
It was
original.
saved in editing. They said.
Yeah. They said the original edit, and they showed clips to give an example in this documentary, and it was just them talking and just and sighing, and it was like there was no energy whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he had to hire new editors to go in there and edit it his way, and then they saved the movie.
Yeah.
So editors are big. They're important.
All right. 3 cheers for the class of 2017.